What's up, everyone?
Yeah,
How y'all doing? We back with another podcast. Two caps, no cap,
no
all
cap.
facts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is. Today
Mm-hmm.
we have a special guest with us. She can introduce herself.
Oh, Maria Arciniegas. Hi, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to be here.
Awesome,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Happy to have
Mm-hmm.
you, my friend. My friend.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
So, yeah. And today we're gonna be talking about the Tao Te Ching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, very interesting text that really is meant to teach us how to live in, correspondence with the way. And what's the way, you may ask? Hmm. That's what we're all asking, and that's what the Tao is trying to teach us. So read the Tao, and maybe you will find out what the way is. But I do have some extra information that can, guide you. Here we go.
Yeah.
So consensus suggests that the Tao was written around 400 BC by Lao Tzu, and Lao Tzu actually translates to old master. So it's hypothesized that we don't really know if he was an actual real person or like with the name Lao Tzu, or if it was just like or if he was like, somebody who didn't want to be named. I don't know. Very mysterious. And
Cool.
and in its 81 verses, it delivers a just a context on how to live the world with goodness and integrity, and an important kind of wisdom in a world that many believe is where many believe that this is kind of impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, another main factor of the Tao is the idea of Wu Wei, which is non action or effortless action, or the action of non action, which is kind of going back to the way, how it's described as the way or the middle path. And it's also one of the most translated works in literature after the Bible, and the most modern translation, or the most popular modern translation, is by Stephen Mitchell, which is the one that I've been reading along with my friend here, Maria, in our discussion groups that we have about it.
One of the versions.
Yeah,
Red
one
Man.
of the versions. We
Mm-hmm.
we read a lot of different versions, but that's the version that I read. So
Okay.
um so yeah, that's just a couple facts about the Tao, and we could get into it, my
Oh yeah.
friend.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, the way.
The way. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tao is really interesting because like I just reading it in the beginning, I definitely felt like it was, and we still haven't finished it. I haven't finished it, like the whole thing yet, because I'm reading it with everyone else in our group. But in the beginning, it was very abstract to me, but like especially in these latter chapters, it's kind of more um
Concrete.
yeah, tangible, I could
Mm-hmm.
say. Like the ideas are easier for me to see, like, and we were talking about this like yesterday and the day before, because like it's kind of reflecting how we're not in alignment with the Tao, that we can really see how accurate the passages from the Tao are right now. So yeah, it's very interesting to see that. But yeah. Anyone want to read like the first passage? I feel like we should definitely read that one just as like a um
Yeah. To get
introduction.
into it. And also, I
Yeah.
would like to point out that the Tao is one of those books of spirituality that are so influential because it really taps into the core, ultimate truth about reality. So it's not dwelling a lot into a lot of concepts, but it's actually getting to the core of those marks of existence, as in Buddhism you would say. and the practice of it. So it's a really a practical book. Basically, it's a guide how to be. And I think as we read this first chapter that you will read, we can kind of put our minds that, okay, let's see the wisdom and how it's trying to teach us to embody that.
Mm-hmm. So I can read chapter 1 for the most part. All right. I
Ooh,
just want to make. All right. So it's called the Tao, right? I just want to make sure that it's yes. So I say it correctly as I read. So it says Tao, or the way, in parentheses, that can be spoken of is not the constant Tao. The name that can be named is not a constant name. Nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of all things. Thus, the constant void enables one to observe the true the true essence. The constant being enables one to see the outward manifestations. The two comes paired with the same origin. But when the essence is manifest, it has a different name. This same origin is called the profound mystery. As profound the mystery as it can be. It is the gate to the essence of all life. That's just chapter 1. And what I'm coming to see is like it's almost like you're seeing a full picture. And you're not just seeing things from the outward appearance, but you're also seeing it from the inward appearance, but they're all creating that picture of itself. It's sort of like if you look into a mirror almost. This is basically what it's said. Like, you don't say you've never looked in a mirror before, right? You don't realize what you look like because you've never seen your reflection. But you do certain things and other people know what you look like. But when you finally are able to see what you look like, you don't, and say you have like a smidge or something on your face, right? You finally realize, hey, I got something on my face and I can actually wipe this thing off of my face so that I can go back to being who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. I
Oh,
like
I
that analogy.
really like that, because something that in this first chapter says, and you're pointing to it, is how ineffable the Tao is, and that's why we have, we call it the way, the Tao, but it's something we can only just point at, but we cannot really describe it. But by using these words and these concepts that, like you say, is like the mirror, so we can only just kind of use this realm of words of a form to try to tap into it, but it really is just a beingness. And the Tao is that beingness that can only be tapped in when you go within and you find silence and stillness, and then you kind of tap that vibration.
And then
But
also, yeah, and also when you look at a mirror, it's actually your image like reversed or flipped. So you're still not truly seeing exactly what you look like. You know?
Because it's inverted.
So like it's going back to that Tao sense, like you can never truly understand the Tao until like, I'm feeling like it's like kind of like when you give up this human form and move on to like that next ethereal form, then you'll be one with the way, because like that's all there is. But as physical beings, we'll never truly understand the Tao. We can just strive to be in these flow states, or these states of like effortless non-action, effortless action. I don't know what I said before.
effortless action.
Yeah, effortless action that kind of embody that sense of like, yeah, I'm not too focused on what I'm doing right now, but I'm in the flow and I'm feeling like this is right. So yeah.
Yeah, I like how you put that together, because to me the way I see it is sort of like it just I'm trying to put it in just in human terms so that other people can understand, so they can understand like tangible ways. But it's sort of like working a job, but actually realizing your career, right? The job itself is the tangibility, like it's the thing. But sometimes when you get to a point, you realize the job is not really what you want to do. The job is not why you're here. But when you see the purpose behind what you're trying to do or what you're supposed to do, and obviously through understanding the truth, you can see your true self. because, you know, obviously from a mirror, the mirror was going to be inverted anyway, so it's not going to teach you the whole self. But when you see the inner self, you realize that the inner self is just a reflection of the outer self. And once these two things come together, you realize, wait, there is truth in everything. It might not necessarily be the truth that we want to see right away, but once we realize, hey, I don't necessarily belong at this job, I belong to my purpose, we see that there's a way of thinking that actually shifts our mind to realize that we're worth more than what society says we are.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something good that you point out there, because as we are here embodied, we might feel, and as Adam was pointing as well, we might feel like, you know, we're out of alignment with the Tao. And I see that we're talking about this in these terms as if we are, the Tao is one thing that it's like a perfect idea of or the perfect vibration of a state of beingness. But something we start to learn is that the Tao is behind everything as it is right now. So there comes this concept of divine order and how the flow. So the Tao, we can describe it as being in this state. So the way, you know, it's way. So it's first an action, a beingness.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that is being done, and as such, it has to move through time. Right? Actions can only move in time and space. So we as humans are actually those that version here, let's say in the physical world, that is acting in this space time place, and the way is inherently in that. So as we might feel out of alignment sometimes, while we read the Tao, we start to see like this is the way of the Tao. Actually, there's no way that something is out of the alignment of the Tao. It's just that the Tao has a wave function, right? Like it moves
Yeah.
up and down. It's that's the way of the Tao. It has to flow. In order to move, it cannot be straight or stagnant. It has to go into a fluid way. So it is through that mastery of the ups and downs that the Tao master starts to arise, and the wisdom starts to arise, because you start to just flow with those things that are pointing in different directions, and you start to master the receiving and the giving, the feminine and the masculine, the
Mm-hmm.
action and the non-action. So as we are right now, it is part of the Tao, and everything that we have seen is just that we might be, you know, in a deep, we might be, you know, the waves like this, and here's the center. We might be here, we might be here, we might be at the center. And at those moments in which we are at the center, we can tap into that masterfulness of the Tao, and that's what we try to embody, that wisdom. But everything is always in alignment with the Tao.
Mhm. And I like that you mentioned the wave because that reminds me of how water is very closely related to the Tao. Because when we think of, you know, effortless action that still produces massive and drastic changes, water is something that does that. Like it just flows, you know, especially when it's out in nature, but yet it can erode rocks and, you know, hard surfaces and, you know, cleanse itself all in this state of really non-action. It's not necessarily trying to do these things, but it's doing it by being itself, you know,
Yeah.
being in this flow state.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And they talk about that a lot in chapter 2 as well. I'm just gonna cut down a little bit, but there's a part that I saw. It says, matter of fact, I'm gonna just read the whole thing so you can understand, but I will break it down like as we go along. It says, and just in the beginning of chapter 2, it says, as soon as beauty is known by the world as beautiful, it becomes ugly. And this is something that happens to us as well. Like when we look in that inverted mirror, we see, well, maybe I don't look so good, you know, or maybe I don't look like this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's because of the outside influences that might have not been affected from that Tao, like these other individuals who might have lost their way. And if these other individuals who might have lost their way have see this from that perspective, oh well, this is the definition of beauty, and you see something that is not the definition that they brought about, then you feel almost as if you're ugly. But the way doesn't choose ugly or beautiful. It just shows what it is.
Mhm.
You know, and I can continue on. It says, as soon as virtue is being known as something good, it becomes evil. And this is the thing. People might see somebody's good might be somebody's evil, and somebody's evil might be somebody's good.
Mhm.
So it's just realizing that we can take out that outside influence who might have lost their way, realize that the way is found within us, and become the way that it already is. See, the thing is, like, I believe that everyone is here for a purpose. Now, it can be good or bad because, like we said, good and bad is subjective to every individual. But after we realize what our purpose is, if we do not live what we in purpose, then we'll live in somebody else's destiny, which might or might not be the way for us. You
Mhm.
know?
And I think
And
there's also something, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
no,
no,
no.
I'm finished. Yeah.
something to complement that idea is that
Mhm,
not only is subjective, that if something is, let's say, in black or white,
mhm,
just to give a yin or yang, just to give the two examples of dichotomy, but it's also that there needs to be this contrast. And there's something about reality and this world of form that needs the contrast. I mean, it is not something, it is how it is made. So the only
mhm,
way that reality can function as it is because there is a contrast that starts from the moment in which there's direction, right? When we say time and space, then there's here and there's there, and that's back and forth, and then you already have the realm of duality. So we are living here in the realm
mhm,
of duality, and because of that, the way, when you start to tap into this masterfulness of seeing two sides, you start to see that both of them are necessary. And I think this chapter 2 is excellent at portraying that. Is saying, in order to have the beauty, you need to have the ugliness, because the contrast in the world of form is what allowed us to see what is what, and to be able
exactly.
to distinguish it, right? We need these distortions in order to have things. And the way of the Tao is that there's no judgment. Both are okay. But what we think is good and what we think is bad, it's a judgment that we make from our human condition. But it's actually just it's in divine. There's no judgment from the Tao, from the point of view of the creator of the universe. And I'm not saying like a god. I'm just saying like the Tao, the way. And when we cherish that there needs to be those, that everyone is playing the role, like you say, everyone has their role to play, and there's no good one, there's no bad one. It's just people doing their different contrasts to each other just to create this beautiful world of form. Then the wise just realizes there's nothing I need to do because everything is as it needs to be. The only
Mhm,
thing I can do is to me myself, help myself to navigate through life through this flow. How can I embody that flow within me?
mhm, mhm,
Yeah. And that that made me think of like how it's like like the world kind of started in darkness and then the light came, like,
Mhm.
and then and also what I was going to say before was talking about how when we start to embrace this flow state, that brings up a concept that we talk about a lot in Spirit Mysteries of like um, rising up so that someone else can flow into that space that you were holding, you know? And that's also a part of the way as you continue to rise up and further embrace who you feel like you're supposed to be inside, follow that way, follow that middle path. You also give room for other people to come in and occupy the space that you held before, because that space is vacant. And as the Tao says, like, it's all about flow. So once something once it's kind of like if you're in traffic and like there's a car, like, maybe two or three car lengths ahead of you, there's going to be a car that comes in between you guys, because that's just how it is, that's just how the flow goes, you know. So once embrace the way in yourself and see it internally as well as externally, then you leave a space for somebody else to come into where you were and rise and eventually possibly move up to where you are now.
mhm,
And there is
mhm,
something so beautiful about the book, which is that it teaches you like the keywords or the elements, the virtues that you have to embody in order to get to tap into that. So it's a guide on, what how does it feel when you're in that alignment. And we have like these words coming up again, the grace, the humility, right? Being humble is one of the things that is very, very predominant in the Tao. The gracefulness, the wise is usually, the quiet one, the one that is mostly listening than trying to enforce their will. There's no enforcing of will. There's always just this allowing of others to be. And by guiding us through those keywords, it's how we start to see um, that process of evolution. And I really like the analogy that you make, that by us healing ourselves, that's how we allow others to do so as well, just because it creates that space that moves everything forward. And how the Tao, even though it's everything, I think it's this constant process of evolution, of evolving.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the passage that we were reading today, like with the bow or the bow, whatever it is. But how like it has space for excess as well as deficiency. So the way I saw it was like a ship, kind of. So like when like the ship can bend and move, so that when there's like too much like water or waves in like the front, it can like bend down in like the middle or the back, so that it will stay balanced, and that flow of excess and deficiency. And the end of this passage says, the master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth. She acts without expectation, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think that she is better than anyone else, which is speaking to exactly what Maria was just saying. Like how, when you're in this state, it's not trying to impose your will on anyone else. It's kind of just being and giving of yourself enough that your presence can be felt, but not really like trying to control anyone, giving freely of yourself, but also keeping enough for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does all play a factor. It's sort of like, well, I like chapter 10 specifically because I feel like it kind of relates a little bit, but it talks a little bit about like oneness, and how oneness is not just one thing though. Oneness is harmony. It says, I'm just gonna read a little bit of chapter 10 real quick. It's and this is the first two lines. It says, can one unite the body and spirit? So mind you, right off the back, it's saying it's two different things. But it says, can one unite the body and the spirit as one and embrace the oneness without departing from the great Tao? So basically, it's saying that there has to be, it's almost like there's two things, but there's a glue to hold these two things together, right? And as that comes together, there creates that oneness. It's like when you put your hands together, right? These two things, now they're one thing, but they're two separate hands,
Yeah.
right? They've never, they're still the same exact thing though. Like I can pull them apart because there's nothing holding them together, of course, but aligning the body and
Or you
mind,
could even
yeah,
say, just to follow this analogy, that
yeah,
you see the two hands as separate, but they're part of your whole body, which is one, right? So you think they're two, and you think, oh, this is the illusion of division, but it's all one. They're all connected through your body.
exactly. Their whole body is connected as one being, right? And I'm gonna read the second part too. It says, "Can one achieve harmony with such gentleness by holding on to the true spirit within, or yeah, within, as if the innocent of an infant?" And this is the thing, though. We have to almost become like little children again, because what happens is over time we have, quote, I put this in quotations, but experiences that hinder us from doing the same thing over and over again. I'll give you an example. Say I trip when I'm running, right? And I say, oh, and because I got older over time, I say, you know what, I don't want to trip anymore, so I'm gonna stop running. But the running was good for my health, right? So right off the bat, as a child, though, a child is not going to say, well, I'm going to stop running because I fell. The child is going to be like, well, I fell, but I'm going to get back up and keep running. But their intention is not for health at that point. Their intention is to enjoy their life. And this is what happens. What
Like,
we almost forget how to enjoy life because we're so bogged down with what happened to us in the past that we're afraid of the future.
Mm-hmm.
You
and
know?
Wesley, I think like you point something that is key, and I wanted to bring at some point because is the childlike mindset, because this is something that we see also in tarot, and you see it in psychology. I studied psychology. That's how I do my profession, and this childlike view is the when we tap into the innocence and we see the world, as this playground in which we're just here to play and to make parts. And what, as a child is playing, they don't think like, oh, the guy, this guy is the bad one and this one is the good one, so we should not have the bad one. No, you have to play. You have to see how the plot is, and you have to
Exactly.
enjoy that game that we're playing. And this is what reality is. We are in this playground playing with each other. It's sourced from different perspectives. I always say we're different fractals of sources into each other, and to see how it feels. Like Adam was saying, how does it feel to be this part? How does it feel to have like this background and this astrology and whatever? So you can see it like that. And that childlike innocence is the purity in which you see. That's when you have no judgment, because you can see everything is just meant out of exploration, out of entertainment, out of love and joy, and it's not meant out to hurt one another, or to take from others, right? And it's not egoic. So when you're playing when you were a kid, you were playing. It was just about enjoying the game and not about who wins and who takes things and whatever, because that's not in the mind. So I think tapping into the childlike nature is something that really is what the Tao or the way is pointing to. And something that I also feel it's not explicit on the book as much as it should, but I think it's implicit, is how much meditation needs to accompany this practice, because it's by meditation that you start to learn first the cycles, right? You start to learn the cycle of the breath, which is basically the cycle of reality, right? It's this cosmic cycle of the Tao, of the way, the ups and downs, going in and going out, the within, the without. And through these cycles of the breath and meditation, you also find that stillness, that's the way. The way is the stillness that flows between both of them. So you have, like you said, that like the unity, the oneness, which is like that singularity from which all reality starts to expand to and comes back to it again. The duality comes from it, like the torus shape, right? We have the singularity from where the duality comes. We have all this play, all these natural things. We enjoy the game, and then it comes back again to this singleness, one beingness. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's
And yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of I kind of wanted to say something because okay, I remember now. It reminded me of like kind of the power of imagination, and like how kind of to like in my experience, like to really understand the Tao, I really had to like step out and embrace imagination, like because it's a concept that you can't ever truly comprehend, so you have to use that imagination, that childlike energy to kind of see where it could be guiding you. You can't be bound by the limits of what you think is supposed to be this way or that way. And this also, what you were saying, Wesley, about like the child falling and stuff like that, reminded me of this podcast I was listening today, Molly McCord actually, and she was talking about fear. And it's been like a theme that's been coming up recently, because she was talking about how we need to take our fears and see them as really the fears that we have are really just they're loving us because they're trying not to put us in situations where we can get hurt again. But also you have to really understand that just because you don't want to get hurt again doesn't mean that it's not something isn't shouldn't be for you. You shouldn't try to do something because like you were saying, the child falls, gets hurt, maybe scrapes their knee, but they'll get right back up and keep playing because it's all about the experience for them. So yeah.
And to kind of relate that to what's going on right now, Like even with the corona, where we're kind of like on lockdown, the entire world was on lockdown for what, the whole year almost. And with that being said, though, a lot of the time that we had time to actually develop ourselves. Like we
Mhm.
had time to be one with ourselves again, and not really take out these outside influences, because before, everyone was working, everyone was so fixated on the world that they forgot about themselves. So in that same process, though, we had the time to realize the oneness that we had inside of us. Like we had the time to basically assimilate to our old self again, go
Yeah.
through that old cycle and realize, hey, we're still breathing. And I kind of want to relate that also to sort of like what you were talking about before. How I believe that each person is here for a purpose, but they're all here to create. Like we're all created
Yeah.
to create, and even from we can create on the physical level, or we
Created
can
from the
create
creator
in our
to
mind.
create.
Say it again.
Created from the creator to create.
Exactly. Exactly. And like we're made in the image of the creator that created us. So that means we have the same exact power of that individual. So with that being said, though, we can create with the tools that it gave us. Like and just like we're created, we can, if obviously, if you get married and have children or whatever, you just created something. These two things, these two people became one to create another being. And that's on a physical level. That's on a very minute, low scale. Like that's at the lowest level. That's our creation state. Now on a higher level, on a higher creation state, we can actually create a thought that also is a baby, right? And that becomes reality. I'll give you an example. Before Zoom was a thing, somebody had it in their mind. Somebody had to come up with the entire code. They had to write it. Now mind you, they worked on it, and some people call it like a brainchild, but they're they came up with these different things so that other people can use their baby. And this is the thing, we're here to almost be used, but in a sense to create, or to help other individuals be better than yesterday. Like if a person never came up with the thought of Zoom, we wouldn't be able to use the Zoom call. If the
Yeah.
person never wrote the code, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. We would have to either talk on the phone if that thought was created, because all of it was a thought. We would either have to talk on the phone, or we would have to talk in person. Now, mind you, with us three being in different locations, that would be a little complicated to talk in person unless we're, writing letters and stuff. You know what I mean? So, and even then, somebody created the pencil and somebody created the piece of paper from the tree, because these were ideas that became reality. And this is what a higher form of thinking is. Now, mind you, like I said, a lower form, that creation point is creating another human being. But another human being can do the same exact thing. They can create the paper, they can create the pencil, they can create the book, they can create the game that people want to see, they can create the Zoom, you know. So I
Yeah.
feel like all of it plays a factor. Go ahead.
Yeah, wait. I just wanted to say something because what you brought up was I don't remember exactly what you said, but it
Mhm.
kind of reminded me of the translation that I have.
Mhm.
Oh, you were talking about the quarantine and stuff,
Yeah.
and in the translation in the first chapter that I have, it says, "Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in
Mhm.
desire, you only see the manifestation."
Oof,
Mhm.
very
So
good.
yeah, so like free from when we had to lock down and quarantine, we were kind of freed from these physical manifestations that we had to, like our commute to work, basketball, all sports were done, you were inside and you had to look at the inner mysteries of yourself, and people dealt with this in a whole bunch of different ways, but you know it was still something that we were kind of forced to look at. And yeah, I like you. I thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
of
I
course.
feel like this is such an important point because, like Wesley, you were saying, that I feel like this dichotomy that we have between we are creators, yet we have to be of service to others, you know, and where does the will comes, right? Like where does the desire comes. And then
Mhm.
so it goes through all the teachings of, okay, first we are embodied creatures, we have a body, we have an ego, but we can call an ego, which is this character, right? Maria Arciniegas, you know, like the story that I have around me and this body that has my separation, that's the ego. And the ego wants things. And then it's like, so why does it want things if supposedly according to the way of the Tao, you know, it's to be free from those desires so that you can actually let the universe flow you or through you, and you can become. But we are creators, that yet we are not supposed to want things and create, you know, like you can start to get into these confusions of, so why are we like this? Why do I want things? And I'm a creator, but yet that's not good when I create from what I desire. And I feel like once you start to do the practice and embody, you know, the teachings, it starts to become clear that selflessness and selfishness at some point they unite. Because at the end, the insight that you have inside, right, inside, is that it's all one. And the more you go within, is that we're all one. So
Mhm.
when we start to tap into that realization and really feel it, we start to see that being selfless. And now when I allow myself to just be like a conduit of the divine, which is just to say my connection to source, you're right, it's just the connection that we all that unite us all, uh, to flow through me. And then I start to create through that, in alignment with that. I am creating for all of us, which is also for me. So my ego can be also be satisfied. It's not about fighting the ego or denying it. It's just that the ego starts to align with those desires that are also coming from that heart space that benefits us all. And I'm going to say to that love space, right? And that's when we
Mhm.
start to act out of love, and the ego is happy and thriving as well because it finally has aligned its desires, its creative power with that source.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
it's like going back to what he was saying, like we're here to be used. We're here to be used by that divine energy, you know?
And enjoy as
Yeah.
well, like the child. So it's also about enjoyment. We can enjoy while we're here. It's just that we learn to do it through that alignment.
Mhm. It all plays a factor.
All right, guys. We any last thoughts? We getting up to it's getting up to like 40 minutes.
Oh, all right. Well, I do have one more thing. I feel the one thing that connects us to that divine source is love.
Hmm.
And if we learn how to love that divine source as well as love the people around us, because I believe that everyone is literally a mirror of you, you know, if we learn to love these people as well as love that divine source, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. We satisfy both gratifications of the ego and the selfless needs, but that happens through unconditional love.
And I would add something to that as my closing remark, which is exactly because we learn to love others, is also the self-love. It's so important because first you have to fill your own cup, you know, be compassionate to yourself, understand all your shortcomings, see the light and darkness within you, love it so that you can actually see the light and darkness outside you and love it. And then we
Mhm.
can flow in that Tao.
Yep.
Mhm.
And what I gotta say is I love you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Love your
Nice.
back.
All right, guys. So thank you, guys, for tuning in to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll be back again to give you some more ideas to really just think about. That's all this podcast is about, just giving you food for thought. And we're not saying that any of this is absolute fact. We're saying have your own
Practice.
experience and
Find the truth within.
exactly.
Exactly.
Find the truth within. Thank you, Maria.
Namaste.
Mhm.
Namaste. Peace.